Dave here from Amplify, and I'm talking to Darren Middleton, and in his solo career, but we all remember that he's from Powderfinger. Applause.
Insert applause.
There should be hands all across the screen and all that sort of stuff. So we're gonna have a chat, and we're gonna talk about some stuff and see what we can find out here.
Sure.
So to start with, usually when I talk to a solo artist, of which obviously you've got Powderfinger, but did you always want to be a performing artist? Was it something that, like with Cash Savage, his parents performed all his life, so
Mm.
it's almost you almost fell into it. What was your scene? Where did you
Yeah,
come from to hit the music scene?
it wasn't really that way for me in the sense that it already existed in the family and I was, kind of grew up in that world and therefore I sort of naturally continued. That wasn't the case for me at all. I was really just, a teenage kid in the 80s and I was, AC/DC on the TV and there's this Crowded House and these all of these great bands, Split Enz, sorry, probably at that time. And I just loved what they were doing. And then one day, a friend of mine put a guitar into my hands, and I hadn't really considered that I could even do that myself. But I just took it home and I started playing, and I just loved it. I just found it as a very natural extension of my arms and my hands, and therefore, fast forward 30 years, my voice as a human being, I could use this instrument to sort of tell my versions of the world or how it appears to me, for instance. I never had any great I never pictured myself being, in the where Powderfinger found itself. None of us sort of really anticipated it to become as, I suppose, as well traveled as it did become. But from the moment I sort of had the guitar, I became very interested in writing songs, and I just imagined myself trying to be able to do that. So I started doing that very early. And when I joined Powderfinger in the early 90s, in 1991, I was already writing songs with my old school mates in bands and whatever. And I was, bringing songs into the band and, they were lyrically pretty terrible. Thankfully, we had a pretty good lyricist and singer in that band. But look, it's an ever evolving kind of journey as a songwriter, as you will know from either
Yeah,
yourself or having spoken to many
yeah,
other writers.
yeah,
You
yeah.
just there's no end. There's no kind
No.
of, well, I'm there. I've done it all. I've
And
it's
it's
just
usually
something
it's usually in a band, it's a collaborative thing. Even if you're writing, you bring it in and it gets modified,
yeah.
rehearsal and changes and all that sort of stuff. Do you still have that original guitar?
No, no, I
Do you
don't.
remember what it was?
It was a Stratocaster copy, like it was a sort of a cheap copy of a Fender
So it was
Strat.
an
It
electric. It wasn't an acoustic.
was an electric, yeah.
So
Hmm.
you had your little amp there as well, and you were just playing in your room with your amp.
I was, I had my school uniform on. I looked like Angus Young, and I wanted to look like Angus Young.
Oh, who
So I was,
doesn't today? What a
yeah.
legend!
So I was standing on top of like a really small practice amp and jumping off and writhing around on the floor the way Angus would do when he did his solos. So I was,
Yeah, that's
easily impressionable.
that's a good doco. That Ted Albert's doco. I don't know if you've seen it, and
No, I
how
haven't seen it yet.
the easy beats, and
Yeah,
how he brought it in, and how they went through to it ends with 74, the start of in excess. So
yeah,
no,
amazing.
sorry, AC/DC, not in
Yeah, it'll be
excess.
amazing to check that out.
And the brothers. I mean, and the fact that the struggle. What I liked about it, and we'll get back 2 seconds. What I liked about it was music's a very collaborative thing, and a lot of people on the outside, fans, don't really notice how collaborative it is. How all
Yeah,
bands sort of know each other and they get along, and it's a very community was. I don't know if it still is, but it was a very community-based sort of process. Back
yeah,
in those days, they'd all turn up, and you'd go to three bands a night and all that. There wasn't the same sort of at-home
yeah,
entertainment, so there was a lot more activity. But it was really pretty cool.
yeah,
Okay, so you started in Powderfinger in '91. They that went through to 2010.
yeah. End of
That
2010.
so
Yeah,
there was 20 years. You had Drag for 6 years,
yeah, yeah.
which was
That's
another
right.
while Powderfinger was going on.
Yeah, it was just a little sort of project I had because, with a band like Powderfinger, there is quite a big, it's a big organization. It can
Yeah,
be quite a slow moving thing just
yeah,
because there are so many pieces in play and there's lots
yeah,
of people working with us. And
yeah,
yeah, and I was always a very kind of like, I just want to keep moving with
yeah,
ideas. So
yeah,
I just
yeah.
had that drag kind of side project vibe.
And the conscious side of me understands that it's the you in everything that's important, and whether that's the small you or the big you, it's still the you that's important. And so you got to do you wherever you are, wherever you find yourself.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
and then you went solo from 2013.
yeah,
So
yep.
you took a few years off, went solo, and so you've been solo ever since.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a bunch of little projects, but essentially, I did take a couple. Well, you know what? Did I take a couple of years off, or just I was a little bit lost at the time, to be honest. So it was not a decision of like, right, I need to take a few years off to have a break. I was actually a little bit lost at sea. It takes
Yeah,
a little bit of time after
yeah.
such a big part of your life
Who
ends.
am I?
You need to discover who you are and
Who am
also
I?
why you're doing what you want to do. You need to
Yeah,
come back, especially as an artist, you really need to, we wax lyrical about, needing inspiration and purpose, and we really do, like,
yeah.
to create work. So it took me a couple of years to sort of fall in love with music again.
Yeah, yeah, I can understand that. I can understand that 100%. I was a pawnbroker for a period, and I was in a suburb, the big guy in the suburb for 10 or 20 years, gangstered up. When I stopped that for about 10 years, I didn't know who I was because
Yeah.
all these sycophants weren't sort of lining up. Okay, the first album, Translations,
Mm.
for the band, took in was that right? The Translations album that was
That
for
was my first solo
your first
record.
solo.
Yeah.
It took in Nick Sesta, Bernard Fanning, Pete Murray, Paul Dempsey, Claire Bowditch. I mean, all these people we'd go to and see as headliners. That's a pretty good call up.
Yeah. I mean, look, yeah, really lucky. They're just all friends through
Yeah,
the
of
way we all
course.
work together. And for that first record of mine, I was probably still a bit hesitant about, being a lead singer, being the person at the front. And, I love singing, but I'd never been the lead singer as such. So I'd ask my friends to come in and, can you kind of help me out a bit and make me sound better? But
Yeah,
also, it does go back to a point that you made earlier, David, that, music is to me, it's always about people.
yeah,
I can do it all myself.
yeah,
I've got a little studio here. You can't really see it, but I've got
yeah, yeah, yeah.
do it all myself, but it's just not as fun and the
No,
results are not as interesting to me. And, I want to bounce off people and have them sort of suggest better things than what I've habitually come up with in my kind of
yes,
mythology of
yes.
making music. So, yeah, I
Well,
always
I
get
think
friends involved.
I see the community as reminders. So basically, it is you, and you've got to experience every moment yourself and process it, etc. But
Mm.
because you're human, you fall off the tracks all the time, and so the people that are around you that know who you are remind you who you are, so you get back on the tracks pretty quickly. So it's
Yeah.
a pretty cool thing. How would you describe your sound, and how has it changed since 13,
My
if it
sound,
has?
well, I think maybe for this latest sort of record, it's probably a bit more acoustic based, a bit more. But as for, I suppose, how I would try to describe my sound is more in the sense of that it's really storytelling wrapped up in whatever instrumentation is around, which is usually there's some guitars, there's usually some piano and, drums and whatnot, basic kind of stuff that is my usual palette that I would paint with. But the key for me really is about telling stories of observances or of kind of more personal stories, or that's at the heart of my expression and what I try to do. Sort of, I try to open up a little bit, but not too much. You're still a little bit guarded. You're an archaeologist in a sense that you're sort of excavating your life for everyone for everyone to connect to, because
Sure,
we
sure.
all have similar kind of
That's that
challenges.
that's why I think these interviews are cool. They might not get seen by the masses, but what they do is they give someone an understanding of who you are on a different level so
Yeah.
that they can know you somewhere. And it's usually these people that do watch that
Mm.
become advertisers.
Yeah. Sure. I
Everyone else
mean,
just becomes a listener. Uh, so are you a super talker when you talk about, telling stories, or are you more introverted? So telling stories in music you can do, but generally you wouldn't do it in normal everyday life.
I would say that's mostly true. In a more kind of social situation, for instance, I love having conversations one on one with a small. If I'm in a big group of people, I'm not going to be the loudest voice in the room.
Right,
So like,
right,
hey, hey, and then there's one time, blah,
right,
blah, blah.
right.
I'll let other people are good at that, and I'm sort of, I'm in awe of storytellers. I was hanging out with James Morrison, a trumpet player. Oh,
Yes, Jimmy.
James
Yep.
Morrison, amazing guy, and he just rolled out these amazing stories of actual stories of his life and the adventures and
Yes.
misadventures and all. And I was just enthralled listening, and I really didn't have anything to offer because there was just a very good storyteller in that room.
He had a lot of that on TV with hey hey it's that day and all that sort of stuff where they'd be front and talking and doing a whole range of stuff. So I
Yeah.
could see that just evolving.
Mm.
Who were you've had so many people you've collaborated with and so many major artists you've played with and all that sort of stuff. Who are the influences for you, like primarily? And then, since you've gone through and you've seen some of these people up front, who are the influences sort of these days to keep you motivated?
Well, like I suppose going back a step, my influences were probably more like like Angus Young and
Yeah, the
Jimmy
Youngs.
Page, and kind of a gets a musical sense, those kind of bands and those kind of artists. As I sort of moved into wanting to become a better songwriter and sort of storyteller, big picture guy, people like Rodriguez and Neil Young, and the more kind of people who I've found inspiring who are telling stories. Um, and these days, I get inspired by, local artists that I happen to come across. Carlos Williams, I still really like. He's like a blues,
Yep.
but pretty authentic blues guy. I love his sort of sense of inserting himself into a song, I suppose, in a sense. Um, I saw Damien Rice, who's an Irish singer-songwriter, but he came out
Yep.
to Australia about 6 months ago. I mean, I love his music. I've always had his music downloaded, but then when I saw him live, it's like, well, I'm in. I'm completely
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
sold.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Which
yeah.
is a really, which is always which was always the bar that we actually set with Powderfinger was like, great, we've made good records, they sound good. We've got to be better.
Yeah, yeah,
In
yeah,
live, that's
yeah,
where,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's sort of a thing that I expect too. When I see someone
yeah,
live, I want to be just, wow, this is,
yeah,
you've taken me to a better place even than the
yeah,
recording
yeah,
did.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's also the bar that I set for myself. I want to be better live than I am
yeah.
in that sort of captured format. So
Yeah, I say that if you want a career, Sarah Bareilles, Yellow Brick Road, Black Darkened Hall, Eyes Fixed Gazed, a lifetime moment, or Prince, on the Hall of Fame. He's up there with Jeff Lynne, and they're all playing legendary. And then he comes to play 2 minute riff that's ridiculous, picks
yeah,
up the guitar,
yeah,
throws it into the audience, and walks off. And you
yeah,
think, if you want a career, do that. Just do
yeah,
that once, and you have a career. So that's
absolutely.
right. That's the Powderfinger. Got to go to this level because
Yeah,
everyone's at this level. We've got to go to this level. So
yeah.
that's pretty cool. Okay, Tides is getting released in September.
You mean
No,
my new record?
the new record Tides is being released in September.
Pathways.
Pathways.
Yeah. Tides came out to
Sorry. Tides was the last, was it?
yeah, yeah,
Apologies. Pathways is being released in September.
yeah.
68. You see, I'm not supposed to get everything right.
It's okay,
Who
man.
are you? What's your name, John?
Yeah.
What's going on
Hi,
there?
my name's Darren.
Yeah. So Pathways is coming out in September. What's it all about? Tell us something about it and how you were saying it differs from the last.
I would say it's probably a little more immediate in its in the stories on this album. I had a few little half ideas, and I went overseas for a little bit with my guitar, and I very quickly landed on a song, which is we always kind of write lots of little ideas, and it's important to finish them, but I kind of finished this idea very quickly, and it was the catalyst to kick me off for the rest of this album. You know, I often need to have just one thing that will then steer the ship down the throughout the rest of the journey.
Album. Yep.
And it would look, I guess the essence of that particular song, which is called Stay in This Moment, it really, I just felt like I captured this feeling of where I was at the time. And I wanted that to be a bit of a template for the rest of the album. So it's it's probably quite personal in a sense. If you dig through the lyrics and then perhaps read between the lines, you might garner a bit more from it than is apparent. Um, it also, I would also say it's quite close to home. There are songs that are inspired literally by my family. You know, I look for sort of lyrics that, or I look to try to write lyrics that have a place that's close to home, and there are definitely some of those in there. Literal situations of when I met
Sure.
my wife, she was standing at the doorway, and but that's a lyric in a song.
Sure.
Yeah, so the instrumentation also is quite sparse. I intentionally have recorded this to a little 8-track tape machine with only one or two takes per every instrument, whether it be vocal, guitar. Some of the songs are vocal, guitar done live at the same time. So that kind of went along with the ethos of wanting it to be quite personal, quite raw, not highly produced and AI fixed and any of this kind of stuff that I know is
Well,
quite prevalent in productions these days. They're
it'll make performance
saying,
easier, won't it? When you go and tour it, it'll make,
yeah.
they'll hear what they heard.
It's yeah, and still hopefully it's better live than they even hear it on the record.
Well,
But
that's another question. So the favorite tracks, if you want me to, when it comes out, what are the tracks you're going to push me towards?
oh, I would say there's a song on there called Always, which is it's a pretty simple acoustic track. I think it's track number two on side A. It's quite personal. I feel like it's quite a beautiful, it's really essentially a love song, but I think it's captured in a pure way, perhaps. Maybe there's another song on there that I would lean towards also, which was the last song that I wrote for the album, which was called When I Met You. And, you know, going on a complete tangent to what I've been saying the last 5 minutes, it's a completely fictional song, as in the characters and the storytelling. But I wanted to give it this kind of rambling Paul Kelly, Bob Dylan sort of
Sure,
vibe. And so I just ran with whatever kind of came out, you know, that sort of stream of consciousness idea where you just write things and
sure,
without overthinking it. So
sure,
there
sure.
you go. So there's one that's very close to home and one that's like a fictional character.
And performance, are you going to tour it? I presume you'll tour it.
I hope to definitely sort of, I need to get off my ass, David, to be honest,
Yeah,
and
well, that's
start
part
organizing
part
it.
part of it. Nothing happens unless you make it happen.
Yeah,
So,
and I'm well
and
aware of that.
and how do you perform it? Like, when you do performances these days, a lot of our photographers complain about the fact that they go to shows where there's a guitarist and they're singing and there's no movement, nothing, and they're sort of just they can't. It's very hard to take a gallery per se.
Yeah, for
So
sure. Yeah, I
for a
understand.
songwriter, singer-songwriter, it's
Yeah.
it's probably not the easiest thing in the world. You're going to put a
Yeah, I mean,
band
look,
together?
that's also like, I suppose a state of economy for an artist.
Sure, sure,
It's I suppose it's at times it's only possible to do it just by yourself because
sure,
flying and
sure,
accommodating people. But for me, I quite like that format simply as a way of connecting with the crowd.
sure,
But for this record, I would like to have a three-piece, drums, bass, and myself to kind of to
sure,
bring the songs, give them a bit more of the justice that they were recorded with.
sure.
So I'll probably mix it up, but I would definitely want to have like a little three-piece band at times. So I need to really start organizing that.
Sure. Are you doing anything else, by the way? Do you do any syncing or any movie stuff or anything like that?
Oh, I don't do any movie stuff. I have been I can't really say too much about this right now, but I have been working on a different project that's more of a photography project.
Yeah,
So
good. All right. Well,
I'll let you know a little bit about that.
when it comes out, you can do that
Yeah,
with
for
us.
sure.
Okay. We spoke before. If you could perform with any music artist, alive or dead, who would you choose? and why? And you probably perform with quite a lot that would be other people's goats.
Uh, oh boy. Um, Jeez.
I could see you there in the background. You could be a part of the Fifth Beatle or something like
Oh
that.
yeah. This is literally kind of my little. There's shit
Yeah,
everywhere. There's shit
oh,
everywhere in here, David. I'm not going to
that's
share it too
that's
much.
that's mate. You know, at the end, this. I keep on thinking that a conscious discussion is one that doesn't have any purpose. It's just a meander. And you
Mm,
just go backward and forward and just discuss. Because as soon as you start to focus on what did he say, why did he say it, who's he that, what's that all about, you're in your head and
yeah,
you're not in the river just dealing with the current
yeah.
as it's moving past you. And
I'm happy
so
to be in the river.
well, I think that that's the point because you can be Darren Middleton, you can be Powderfinger, you can be whatever anyone sees you as,
Mm,
but it may not be what you want them to see you as. And so that's the misnomer of life. We follow conditions, and most of the world thinks they don't
mm.
feel. And
Yeah,
so
no,
so
it's
so
true.
when you say it's all messy and all that sort of stuff, no more messy than anyone else's sort of situation.
I know, mate. And look,
They don't
it doesn't really bother me, but
but
and
they
also
don't
you
turn
can't.
up to you because of Vogue. They turn up to you because of your music. So they're interested in your music.
And look, you can't control what people think
You
of you, so
can't.
just bloody be yourself and get on with it.
I often think this. Sometimes people comment, "What's he fucking talking for?" We wanted to hear more from the artist, and I think, well, if you want to hear more from the artist, go and hunt him down and get arrested for stalking. Um,
But I will answer that question very
good,
quickly. Look, I
good.
suppose there's probably, I think for anyone, there'd be a few people, but I'm just going to say someone who is still with us today would be Neil Finn. I'm just a
Oh
massive
yeah,
fan of
well,
his songwriting and
massive.
I mean, he's just, I mean, I've met Neil a few times, but I still, if he ever asked me to
But
come and
he's an
play with him,
everyman. He's an everyman. He's not a. He hasn't got his
yeah,
head up his ass or whatever.
yeah,
But and I thought I saw the 81, one of the 81 countdown things, and a young Paul Kelly was there. When you think 45 years and they're still going strong, like Kelly's going super strong,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
we think, geez, you've got to have respect for, you know, don't just see them as, they're almost legendary. You almost should be, they should be deity in some way.
Yeah.
Sorry,
And
I
you know
just
what? Yeah, but let's enjoy them while
yes.
while they're still with us,
Yes,
because
yes,
we are
yes,
entering that period of time where
yes.
these people that we grew up with or that we have loved their music or their art or whatever for many years, we're all we're losing them. We're at that point where
68.
we're starting to
I
lose them.
know,
So,
I know what you're talking about, man.
yeah.
Don't you worry about that. Okay,
Mhm.
what do you reckon? A couple of quick things, and then just some quick questions to finish. Aspirations. What's the aspiration for Darren Middleton solo? What do you want to do with it? Where do you want it to get it to? What would be the zenith?
I think I would like to keep doing it as long as I can to become a better singer, to reach, just to have people connect with
Yeah.
the with the songs and the stories, but not because they're my songs and stories, but just for the fact that they are connecting with someone or
Yes.
something,
Yes.
and
Yes.
just kind of going, you know what, God, that song spoke to me, and thanks for that. I mean, I've
Yes.
had people come up, I've been lucky enough to have people come up and say, look, this was at this point in my life, and this helped me, or this marked a significant time in my life. I mean, that's like the greatest, that's the greatest honor an artist can have, is that
Sure.
someone outside of your world has gone, well, you took me into your world when I needed it. And
Sure.
that's like, man.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
So
Sure.
if I have the privilege of being able to do that, then I'll keep
Well,
doing
I'm
it.
sure it's
As long
happened.
as people will listen to
I'm
me.
sure
I'll
it's
go ahead.
happened. They just haven't told you. I
Yeah.
think that happens for everyone. And we walk through and jump off bridges because we've got low self-esteem. And if anyone ever knew, I think there was that movie with James Stewart, that Christmas movie, where he's in the town and you know he loses, he runs a bank and he loses the money and all this sort of stuff. So he goes to the bridge to jump off and commit suicide, and it's a wonderful life. And
Right.
some novelty angel comes on down and it ends up showing him the town he came from without him if he wasn't born. And it
Mm.
becomes a brothel and prostitution and bars on every corner and all that. So he has an impact. and he sort
Mm.
of turns him around from that situation. It's worth watching.
Yeah, I will.
Worth
I'll check
watching.
it out. Yeah.
Okay, what's the best thing about performing to a live audience, in your view?
Uh, Losing yourself to the process or the moment. That's the
But
best thing.
both with the band and with the audience,
Yeah.
I would think.
Just being lost. I mean, if you're lost, they'll lose themselves in you, I guess, you know.
And the career highlight.
Well, definitely with Powderfinger's work, you know, I've had some amazing experiences as a solo artist, but you know, look, just the scale of things back in the day with the
Was
band was
massive, was
it's
terrific,
just incredible. So lucky.
terrific. And the fact that you can have a first solo album and bring
Yeah.
heavyweights from
Yeah.
everywhere to go on it.
It's
What's the craziest thing you've ever done?
oh, well, I don't know how crazy it is, but
Pass.
I did jump.
Oh, so you're going to tell me most people pass because they don't really want
Ah,
to.
look, it's not that crazy. It was, but I did jump out of a plane for like a video stunt with a guitar strapped to me.
Crazy.
But the I didn't quite realize we had a whole briefing. I made like a video on it. I've never shown anyone. But as I jumped out with a guy, you know, strapped behind me, I was attached. The guitar just almost smashed my teeth out. It just flipped up, and I just caught it at the last.
Ouch. Ouch.
Crazy enough to
Right.
survive that experience, but that was yeah, that was pretty interesting.
One topic you can talk about for hours.
Probably food, cooking. I
Cooking,
love cooking.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there's a book, man. You make money. You want to make money, bring out a cookbook. What's the thing you like most about yourself?
Ooh, what do I like the most about myself? That's the hardest question. I've never been asked that before, ever. What do I like about myself? Oh, there's got to be some good bits in there somewhere.
You've got a good energy, Daz. You really do. You've got a calm energy. I would
Well,
think
that's a nice.
if I was making an assessment, I'd say that you probably suffer from a little bit of, low self-esteem in some ways. You'd like your
Sometimes.
quiet, and I'm not saying that as a nasty because
Yeah,
probably the
yeah,
whole world does,
yeah.
but you're quiet in sort of some ways, and you're not as brash as some of the people that I talk to, which is cool. I think that's a good thing, not a bad thing, by the
I
way.
mean, look, yeah, you look. I second guess myself at times, like most people. That's for sure.
Especially coming from that blast from the past,
Hmm.
because that was all big, big, big. And when you just turn up and it's not quite as big, 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 there has to be a part of you that sort of says, "Oh, it'd be
Uh,
nice if it was a bit bigger."
yeah, but I'm actually at peace with all of
Peace.
that. I'm totally at ease
Enough.
with that.
Done.
I
All
quite
right.
enjoy that.
All right. To finish this off, favorite or these are your favorites, current or all time? Favorite album
Favorite album of all
or
time?
current? It can be current if you can't, because there's too many all-time favorites probably, but
There are, but God, I'll say Abbey Road, Beatles.
that's a
I
go-to.
mean,
Favorite artist.
favorite artist would be probably Led Zeppelin.
If
Well,
people only
that's a
knew.
band.
You
Hey?
see, if people only knew how big they were, they were
Yeah.
Beatles-esque.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They were huge. And, we sort of look back on them and we don't talk about them as much as we do, Beatles and Stones and all
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. They were
Actually, maybe it
unbelievable.
would be Neil Young. Ah, dude, there's too many.
Well, he's fantastic now. I talked to some of the guys last year or this year when they brought out his show. That was a good thing. Favorite movie?
Ooh, oh boy. Well, the first one that popped into my head really was The Matrix, but that's like
A head
I
fart.
like a bit of sci-fi and whatnot.
Favorite place to visit?
That would be wherever my mum is. So yeah, home for her, which is on the Gold Coast. So I'd be up
Good,
there.
good stuff. Good stuff. Nice answer. Favorite venue to play?
The Palais Theatre in Melbourne
What a
is
what a great venue. It's sort of the Forum, but cut back
hmm,
about a tenth or a fifth or something rather. But it's
yeah,
great character, fantastic character.
totally.
Favorite food?
Ooh,
Well,
style of food, for
a
instance.
foodie, a foodie. Now you got to tell us. You're going to declare yourself here. What do
Uh,
you like to cook most?
well, my favorite style of food would potentially be Japanese, and I don't really tend to make that.
You couldn't cook that. It's too
It's
hard.
pretty hard, but I do. There is one Japanese dish I make, which is called nasu dendaku, which is a like it's a grilled eggplant with a miso sauce in the oven.
Oh,
It's really yummy. So I do make that dish
I'll be
occasionally.
around in half an hour.
Okay.
Favorite drink?
Hmm. Probably a Shiraz.
That's the
I mean, that's my favorite
no,
drink.
because
I mean,
Powderfinger was
water
successful. You
whiskey.
can afford Shiraz. Most of the others just say beer, but that's all
There's
right.
no, look, there's
We've moved
always,
up.
yeah.
Favorite person in history, apart from me.
Apart from you, the favorite person in history. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
this is another declarative sort of thing. Someone says Mandela, someone says Mum, someone says whatever. It's like someone that
Yeah.
these are all people. I always think that fans listen, and sometimes, say favorite movie, and you've got some screamo, and he says The Sound of Music or something or other. It blows people's
Hmm.
heads. So
I would probably, lean towards my parents, really.
it's
So
good, man. There's
that's
nothing
the
wrong with
big
that.
thing.
That's
Yeah.
They should be probably everyone's favorite. They're
They
they're
should be
not
there.
most of the
They're
time, but they
for
should
the
be.
most, yeah, for the most part, they are the most integral part of
Of course, they're
who
who
you
you,
become.
as we spoke about at the start. You almost become what they're doing, and
Yeah,
you complain about it, but you
but
still become
absolutely.
it.
100%.
And tattoo. Do you have a tattoo?
I do, yeah.
What's your favorite tattoo?
Oh, well, I mean, I've got a tattoo. I've
No,
only got one.
you've only got one, so what's your favorite? What is it?
I don't even think it's my favorite. I keep forgetting it's there. It's like a guy on a horse.
And why did you get it?
I left school. It's just, I just turned 18 and
And
just
it was time. It was a rite of passage.
it was just something I did back then. I honestly keep forgetting it's there.
Well, it's a good thing it's not, Cecilia and your wife's name's
Yeah,
Joy, because that'd be
true. That would be
terrific.
awkward.
That's it, Daz. That's
Thanks,
it.
Dad.
That's all there is. I appreciate it. So just in closing, you've got the album coming out in October,
Yeah,
Trans
early September sometime.
early September. Sorry, the album's coming out in September. Keep an eye out. Check out the old stuff. Love your work. Let us
Cheers,
know
mate.
if we can do anything. All the best.
Thank you. Take it
Bye.
easy.